The Seal Who Came to Dinner is such a delightful episode of Frasier. The bulk of it is brilliant, but the last few minutes are just perfect. The use of the lamp is so simple but so effective, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. This is the 8th episode of the 6th season of Frasier. It's directed by David Lee, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the events of the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Roz and Niles and Frasier in the coffee shop, and Niles explains that for the upcoming Golden Apron Awards, everybody has to host a dinner party. He wants to get the Golden Apron. But he can't do this because he's obviously moved apartments recently. He doesn't want to invite people into his new apartment. And to be fair, it's a very small apartment. I don't think it would work very well. Frasier offers his apartment, problem solved. Or is it? We then are at the apartment, Frasier's apartment. Daphne and her friend Pam are there. And I have to say, I love Martin. It's very rare that I don't agree with anything Martin does, but I didn't love his character in this moment. But also, maybe it's not a big a deal, I don't know. But he kind of starts to flirt with Daphne's friend, Pam. She's about the same age as her. The age gap itself is not the issue I have with this, but we establish that he's attracted to her because he reminds her of the girls in Korea he met during the war. And when Daphne said, "You're not 21 and her village hasn't just burnt down," it felt almost predatory. I really didn't like that at all. So initially I wasn't too bothered. He's allowed to flirt with an attractive girl. It's pretty harmless. But when it was explained and kind of padded out a little bit more, I didn't really love it. But I love his jumper. Very, very eye-catching. Love the colours. Quite different to what he usually wears. It was very clear he wore it to catch Pam's eye, and I have to say it looks pretty good. Niles and Frasier then come in. And also, I should point out as well, the other reason why I didn't like that bit with Martin is because nothing else happened with it. That was it. That's all we get from that part of the narrative. So it's not like it was integral to other parts of the story. So I would have just rather it wasn't included, or maybe they didn't expand on the whole war aspect. I don't know. I didn't care for it. But it's not the end of the world, I guess. As I was saying, Frasier and Niles then come in. There are no problems. And then Niles notices a piece of tape on the window at the balcony. And Frasier points out that it's just a small piece of tape. The window's going to get repaired soon because a bird flew into it and it made a teeny tiny crack. And Niles is not happy with this because people at the party will nitpick. They will make him drop points as a host for having a piece of tape on a window, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But I guess those are the kind of people Niles is associated with. And he realises that there is another option. Maris is out of the country, and she has a beach house. She and Niles used to have a beach house. And Niles figures that they can go to this beach house. As he explains it, it's not a crime to break in if it's a catered event, which I have to agree, most crimes are not catered, but nevertheless, it's probably not something he should be doing, but he's desperate, so he and Frasier go there. It's a really nice property. It looks, it's a really nice space. I think they made a really great use of the space. There is a lamp there that's battery operated, and it's clap activated. Apparently Maris bought it after there was a power cut and she couldn't find the lamp. Honestly, pretty sensible idea. And this lamp becomes quite significant. It's such a small detail in the grand scheme of things, but I got a lot of satisfaction out of it. And there's going to be a meteor shower, so they go outside to where everybody will, in theory, be able to watch it. And it sounds like a lovely evening. But there's a rather pungent aroma. And it turns out that there's a dead seal on the beach. And they phone up the animal control or whoever they phone up to take the seal away, but they only deal with live animals. And they suggest, and I don't know if, I'm assuming this is factually accurate. I haven't fact-checked it. I don't really want to Google it as I don't want to see pictures. But the advice on the phone they were given is to punch or pierce holes, stab holes into the seal and push it out to sea, and the carcass will drift off. I don't know if that's factually accurate, but I assume it is. And Niles doesn't want to do this. So the chef arrives, and then Niles comes downstairs with 2 tiny buckets and spades. The fact that they had buckets and spades in Maris's beach house was a little bit peculiar, but prepared for anything, I guess. And I guess they're trying to just use these to shovel the seal out. And then they get this fairy peignoir and put it on the seal. And I guess they were using this to cover it up and drag it down. And it seemed like they got rid of the seal, but then it comes back. And time has run out. The guests have all arrived. We cut to the dinner party. Niles makes a joke about shellfish demands because one of his guests doesn't eat fish. And shellfish, selfish. I will say, it's not selfish to not eat fish, but I did enjoy the joke nevertheless. And they all go outside to watch the meteor shower, and there's a gnat, or I think it was a gnat, or an insect of some sort, and I think it was Niles or Frasier. I think Niles clapped their hands to get the gnat, and the lamp came on. They'd had the lamp outside so they could see the seal more, and the seal had obviously drifted back, and they clapped the hands, the lamp comes on, and immediately somebody else claps their hand afterwards to turn the lamp off, and other guests start clapping their hands, and it sounds ridiculous, but from that point on until the end, it became quite ludicrous, and I absolutely loved it. And after a big series of clapping, everybody's back inside, and Niles is outside stabbing the seal because he realizes this is the only option he has. He has to stab the seal and let it drift out to sea. And while he's doing that outside, the police arrive because the neighbour, I forgot to mention, but the neighbour saw them earlier at the beginning of the episode. And this neighbour knew Maris and Niles, of course, and she'd called the police because she saw Niles and another man, i.e. Frasier, dragging a body in a boat out to sea. Obviously, this body was dressed in Maris's peignoir, so it understandably would, from a distance, definitely look like a human. Although how she could mistake a dead seal for Maris, I feel like they have opposite physiques, but nevertheless, I guess from a distance in the dark, it looked like Maris. And understandably, the police assumed they had this body and drove the body out to sea, and then the chef announces his knife is missing. So they open the curtains to the window, and Niles, it's beautifully framed, Niles is there cleaning off this bloody knife, and obviously he's arrested because, in all fairness, it absolutely looks like he killed somebody and dragged their body out into the water, and he said, "I was simply stabbing a seal." Like, that makes it any better. Even that sounds terrible. He's definitely up to something. Obviously, we know he's not. All he had to do, and this would have been much easier today, of course, is get out his phone and show the call log to the animal people. And it would have proved that actually it was a dead seal, and they could have phoned, although they probably shut it this time. Although, that being said, I don't know if they operate 24/7 because animals can get into danger at any point. I'm talking myself in circles. It's irrelevant. The point there, though, is that had this aired today and Niles had called them on his cell phone where we could see the call log, he could have just said, look, here's evidence that I called the animal people about this seal. So I love watching, well, Frasier, but any older sitcoms where there are just small things that today would be ever so slightly different. The rest of the episode absolutely would have played out the same way, though, and it was crazy. An absolutely crazy way to take things. The lamp, I love it. It was such a small detail, all things considered. It would have worked without it, but I rather enjoyed it quite a lot. Definitely just a fabulous episode of Frasier. The whole thing's very, very funny, but from the point when they were outside to watch the meteor shower until the end of the episode, it was just absolutely golden. The Seal Who Came to Dinner is an absolutely fantastic episode of Frasier.